Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, this might be my favorite topic of all time that we're going to be looking at today.
Really?
It is. Terraforming Mars. Have you ever heard the word terraforming?
I did, but I didn't know that's what we were researching. You told me Mars.
Traveling to Mars, living there,
Okay.
all that stuff.
Okay.
All right.
I hope you did more research than I did because I didn't do anything on terraforming.
As always, I did.
Okay. Before we get started, though, I would like to go through just general Mars facts.
Mars
you okay
facts.
with that?
I would love to hear some.
Some of these I'm going to ask you
Oh, dear.
and see if you know them.
We're starting off strong with me failing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the reason I wanted to do this was I found out through my research that I know very, very little about Mars.
Okay, that's fair.
So, like, for some reason, I thought it was the third planet from the sun. That would be us. So,
Do you remember the show Third Rock from the Sun?
That was actually a
Yeah.
Sean Lithgow.
It
Decent
was,
show.
yeah.
Decent show. Okay, so Mars, in fact, is the fourth planet from the
okay.
sun. It actually has two moons, unlike our
moons.
only singular moon. So one of the moons, these are really small moons, though.
Well, Mars is smaller, isn't it?
Mars is half the size of Earth.
Oh, there we go.
Roughly, if you look at like
Are its moons half the size of our moon?
No, so the equatorial diameter of Mars is almost exactly half of the Earth. Almost.
Okay.
Has two moons. One of them is 14 miles in diameter. I could run that. I mean,
Yeah.
that doesn't seem too.
That's not even a moon.
Yeah, and then the other one's only 8.
That's like a rock.
Yeah, basically. So again, I said it was about half the size, but it's twice as big. And that's another thing I didn't know is our moon is a quarter of the size of the Earth. I didn't know that the moon was that big.
I didn't either.
Yeah, so Mars is right in the middle between the size of the Earth and the size of the moon. So the next thing is, do you know the average distance? So it always changes because Mars and Earth are on elliptical orbits around the sun. Do you happen to know roughly what the Earth is and or what Mars's average distance from the sun is?
I don't, but I know that actually, per our flat earthers, the sun just rises around the center of the Earth.
No, sorry.
No. I don't have any idea. Please tell me.
So Mars is 142 million miles from the sun.
Okay.
And not 37 the way our flat earthers
Is that what
think
it was?
is.
Something like that?
And the Earth is 93 million. And keep in mind that's average because it changes based
Seems like we're
off
pretty
of,
close then.
Yeah, we're only a third closer than they are, or something like that. So fun fact, this is something I didn't know.
This sounds fun. Let's hear it.
Do you know what an astronomical unit is?
I don't.
An astronomical unit is the distance of the sun to the Earth. That's 1 AU, and in Mars,
so like the 90 whatever million miles. That's 1 AU.
Yeah. So what they did was they used Earth as like the measuring stick. So
Why not?
from that, everything is measured. So Mars is like 1.3 AUs from the sun.
Okay.
So
Good to
interesting
know.
fact.
That is very interesting.
How long do you think one Martian year is? And I'm saying Martian because it's Mars. Martian.
I would guess it's about I don't know, 3 times as long as ours.
It's sick. That was really good.
Was that good?
387 days. Mars orbits the sun at
I did a bad job then.
53,000 miles per hour.
Okay.
Interestingly, though, Mars rotates on its axis at a very similar speed as the Earth. So their day.
So their day's longer?
It's only a little bit longer. It's only 40 minutes longer. So a Martian day is 24 hours and 40 minutes.
Huh.
Here's where the problem comes
Uh-oh.
in. This all seems okay, right?
Yeah, everything sounds good up to this point.
The temperature range, not a good one. It is negative 284 degrees F. And the hottest it gets isn't too bad. It's only 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's all the hotter it gets
That's
there?
all the hotter it gets whenever it's the closest to the sun. Here's the problem with colonization. I'm sure you have some answers to this later.
I'm sure I do.
The average temperature is negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit, which isn't terrible. I mean, there's places on Earth that...
It isn't terrible?
No, I mean...
I was out yesterday and it was like 30, and I was angry about that.
But what I'm saying is there's places on Earth that get close to that temperature.
Okay.
And we can physically be there with like equipment. It's not like there's
We
like
could
nothing
survive
works.
somehow, maybe.
Yeah, okay. Just a few more.
Okay, I'm excited.
If for those of you that have a resolution for 2018 to lose some weight, move to Mars. You will weigh 62% less because there's 62% less gravity.
I don't think that's really accurate. But, you know.
Scale,
well, I mean, the number is accurate. The actually I lost weight part is not
the
accurate.
scale says it, brother. Come on. Another big issue with colonization is it's 96% carbon dioxide. So it's not good. And from a volume standpoint, Mars you could fit 6 Marses just because of the volume of Mars into one Earth.
Interesting.
And final fun fact.
Wow.
Another
a lot.
It'll kill you. Mars does not have an
will
ozone
kill me?
layer. It doesn't have an ozone layer.
Oh yes, I'm aware of this.
So basically, you would die from lethal doses of solar ultraviolet radiation pretty quickly if you didn't have some type of equipment to prevent that from happening.
You make it sound like this is not a great place to be. But I think the good folks of NASA, as well as our friends at SpaceX,
Disagree.
Strongly disagree.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Strongly disagree.
Okay.
Do you want to hear about it?
I would love to hear about it.
All right, let's get into NASA's plan first, because, I mean, they are our space organization, right?
I would like to say something about NASA before you get started.
Uh-oh.
If you've never gone to their website as one of our listeners, or their website is amazing.
It is.
The amount of information, infographics, the way they explain things. I mean, I never really ever looked at NASA's website before we started doing this podcast. Great website.
Yeah, very true.
Like, I kept finding myself picking on things that didn't relate to what we were researching
I did
because
the
it was
same
interesting.
thing. Also, that makes me feel good that you didn't get everything from Wikipedia for once.
Nothing from Wikipedia.
Wow, very good.
0.
All right, Mars plan to get us to Mars plan? NASA's plan to get us to Mars. They want to get humans there by the 2030s. So that's like between like 12 and 22 years away. We'll probably be alive still.
I'll be dead, but you might still be alive.
You are old, and you don't take care of yourself.
I do not.
Which is unfortunate. Unlike me.
That's all right.
I'm a pillar of health.
I was just thinking that.
So their plan is broken into 3 phases: Earth reliant, proving ground, and Earth independent.
Ooh, this sounds interesting.
Yeah, so Earth reliant is going on now, which is pretty cool. And it's focused on research at the International Space Station, testing communication systems that you would need when you're in deep space, as well as, like, hey, what's it actually take for us to live up there?
Okay.
Like in deep space. So there's people that are up on the space station. Check out our Space Stations episode if you haven't, and we'll tell you how they live up there. The commercial development of space travel is also part of this. So companies like SpaceX
Where
and
Elon
others
gets in.
Right, where they're shipping stuff up there and coming up with other ways to, let's say, monetize space.
That sounds like not a good, like, monetizing space. I mean, I guess you have to.
Make money?
I guess you have to.
I mean, everybody wants to make money.
Yeah,
I don't think
right.
SpaceX is out there like saying, we're going to do this for the good of humanity.
Yeah, it's not a charity.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
So then there's proving ground. And in theory, that starts in 2018, which is cool.
Like now.
Right, yeah, like right now.
I'm good with dates.
You are good. I mean, it just started a month ago, but still. So this will include a number of missions near the moon called cislunar space. So that means between Earth and Moon.
Okay.
Testing the capabilities needed to live. These missions will launch with NASA's new rocket, the Space Launch System, which is a pretty terrible name.
Yeah.
Which is going to be what they use to then carry us to Mars eventually.
Okay.
So it's kind of like testing out the new rocket, figuring out how powerful it is, and it's going to carry the Orion spacecraft thousands of miles beyond the moon for 3-week missions. And once this works out, they'll put astronauts on board as well, and these will be included in the missions. So the first ones are going to be like, let's make sure things don't go really bad.
Yeah.
Then let's see what happens when people are on board.
I gotcha.
But we haven't gone thousands of miles past the moon before. This will be the furthest
With
into
people.
space we've ever gone.
Yeah.
Right. And so in the 2020s, they expect to do a year-long mission in deep space as as well as, this is crazy, they're going to do an asteroid redirect mission. That's what they call it, asteroid
Is this
redirect.
like that movie with,
it's a lot like
with
that.
Bruce Willis
yeah.
and Ben Affleck?
What was that?
Armageddon?
Armageddon, yes. And what's her
Really?
face? The girl
Liv
that was,
Tyler.
yeah, the elf in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is where a robotic spacecraft captures the asteroid. Don't know how, but it does. I take their word for it. They're
Yep.
smart. And put it on a safe orbit around the moon. So it kind of feels like a moon around the moon to me.
Okay, yeah.
And then astronauts are going to jump on that thing and practice deep space walking and ensure that their different systems are working and set up systems
That
to
is
send
insane.
stuff and set up systems to send cargo to Mars.
They're going to grab an
I
asteroid
don't get it.
and make it move the way they want it to move so that it gets captured in the moon's gravitational pull.
Correct.
And then orbits.
I don't understand.
Wow.
But it sounds awesome
feel
to
so
me.
dumb.
I know. And lastly, there's Earth independent.
Okay.
That's the last stage, which will send astronauts into low Mars orbit in the early 2030s. And this will involve testing entry and descent and landing on Mars and doing all the research they need to live off the land.
Okay.
And kind of set up camp there. And so they're actually already studying what they call exploration zones there.
Okay.
And these are areas where cool science research could happen, as well as where they're finding resources that people could take advantage of when they're living there.
Okay. So like the movie with Matt Damon.
The movie with Matt Damon.
Was that
yes.
just The Martian? Is that what it was
The
called?
Martian, yeah.
And he got left there and
Yeah.
he had to... Supposedly that was a really good movie for engineers to watch.
I didn't watch it, but
I didn't either.
Matt Damon, You watched the one with him on the wall with fighting the dragons.
Goodness, that was the worst movie
Before
ever.
we get too off track,
Sorry.
let's take a break for a word from our
I
sponsor.
love sponsors. My guess is SpaceX and NASA were all over us this
Well,
week.
that's the problem is I think they both wanted it, so I couldn't decide. And so,
Oh.
again, this week we do not have a sponsor. But we do have some shout-outs.
Love them.
So first, John A. I ignored his email for stickers, and he followed up
Why
diligently.
did you do that?
I didn't mean to. I'm a one-man operation, Yeah,
What am I,
exactly.
chopped
I'm a
liver?
one-man
I guess
operation.
I am chopped liver.
So, John, I'm going to be sending you your stickers and a few extras to give to your friends.
To make up for your lack of response.
Yes. I also wanted to give our friends at Cat Noobs a shout out because they always write in with great ideas like the Swiss Army knife.
think
Which
that's
could
a
be
good one.
interesting. Yeah. And then I wanted to give us a shout out.
Ooh.
So
this is
first off,
interesting.
if you love us, go give us a review on iTunes on
Yeah.
Professional Engineering. Just tell everyone how great we are. Also press that subscribe button
Yeah.
because that helps out our listens. Email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Tell us what we said wrong about Mars or one of our other episodes. Give us other great ideas, or just say you want some stickers and we'll send them to you. But what I really wanted to do is give us a shout out because we have eclipsed 15,000 fans on Facebook,
What?
and we have eclipsed 75,000 listens as well, which seems pretty okay to me.
If you were going to tell me this, I would have got balloons and
Just let them go,
confetti and-
shoot those things off.
Yeah.
So I feel like, we're making some progress, and it's all because of you, our listeners.
That's awesome.
That felt very PBS to me.
It did. That was awesome.
Yeah, so thanks.
I didn't know that. You kind of kept that to
I
yourself.
did. I wanted it to be like a big reveal.
Wow.
Yeah, we're a big deal now.
I'm going to get an extra big coffee today for that.
Mom only made 72 fake accounts to help support us. Thanks, Mom. All right, moving on.
Alrighty. Hey, can we talk about some of the, you're going to talk more about missions, right?
Oh my goodness, I am. But go ahead. What do you
Okay.
want to talk about?
Yeah, so I just want to talk about some of the stuff that is already happening there, actually.
Oh, I'd love to hear about what's happening there.
So,
if the answer is nothing, that will be a really
No,
short
there's
segment.
actually a lot of stuff,
cool.
surprisingly. So as of 2018, there are actually 8 functioning spacecrafts in orbit of Mars.
Interesting.
So, I'm not going to run through all the names, but these are basically in orbit around Mars. They're doing photographs. They're doing some scientific research. And there's actually 2 on the surface. The one, I think, was just launched a few years ago. I remember when Curiosity landed. Remember that? It did a selfie. They made a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the name of the other one, but there was a pair of them back in 2006 that landed.
We'll call it Curiosity Junior.
Mars Explorer rover was the first one.
Yeah, the Mars rover that failed, right?
Well, there was two of them.
Got lost.
One of them failed, and the other one is still, I think, somewhat
Still
active.
kicking?
But Curiosity's over there right now, taking soil samples and taking pictures and doing all kinds of stuff. The interesting thing that they're going to do is they're planning on another launch in 2020, and this is going to be with the InSight Mars lander. So this is going to be just like Curiosity, but it's literally going to have like unbelievable equipment on it for doing additional research on top of what they've already done.
So my understanding was that InSight was going to launch this year and it was going to land in 2020.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. I thought that's what I said.
No,
yeah, you're
that's
right.
cool.
It launches in May this year is the plan.
Okay.
date.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's going to have like a lot of cool stuff like seismometers too. I liked this. It's going to detect Mars quakes. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. Why aren't they just earthquake? Oh.
It took a second.
It did.
Well,
but
you're
that's
slow.
cool. And I am. And they're going to test like meteor strikes, and they're going to use these giant seismic events to study the materials that are below the surface. And then we also talked about this below where they like are going to pound that hammer in, or is that the other one that's going to do that?
That's the other one that's going to do that. That one's going to do the deep underground
A
type
not so
stuff.
fun fact about InSight, people signed up with their names on a silicone microchip that got sent with the lander, and they're going to land on the moon. And it was like 827,000 people got their name on this chip, and then they did another one. It just sounds like a money grab from NASA. But it's like, it's building interest in space, and you're part of this mission now because your name's landing up there.
I feel
That's
like
stupid.
I feel like if aliens ever invade and they
got a
catch
hit
that
list.
chip, they got
Yeah.
a hit list of people that are involved.
I didn't
with space
understand
travel.
it. It just sounded like NASA's trying to pay for their flight with
Well, they
this
don't
going
get a
on.
lot of monies.
Yeah. And then you said what? In 2020, another Mars rover is going, and this is the big
it's
one.
It's actually called the Mars. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's called the Mars 2020.
Yeah.
And it's similar to Curiosity with the build and the actual rover itself, but the equipment is going to be the crazy thing. And this one's going to do a lot of the deep, digging and some different
relatively
things.
deep, like 16 feet or something
Yeah.
like that. We talked about this in our top inventions episode.
We did. That's
Yeah,
right.
it's pretty cool. But it's like the size of a car, the Mars rover, and it's going to find like signs of habitable areas, if it's possible, past life forms that were on there, anything like that. So pretty cool stuff. Right?
Yeah, very.
Have you, totally on topic, ever had a Mars bar?
I love Mars bars.
Do you?
Back in the day.
What are they?
A Mars bar.
I've never had one. They sound
it's-
terrible.
I believe it's an almond, nougat,
Ugh.
chocolate, and caramel.
Ugh, almond.
I don't think they make them anymore. I haven't seen them in ages.
I don't know. Maybe they're no good and that's why they don't. Anyways, before we get into what SpaceX is doing, there's past missions to Mars. Did you know this? Like you said, there's 8 up there?
Yeah.
They've been going on since like the 1960s. In fact, the USSR failed 10 times between 1960 and 1973 to send things up there to take pictures and stuff.
A lot of times they're just flybys. And
Right.
They're
Oh,
just
yeah.
taking
Right.
pictures.
Yep. Most of the time. Yep. So in '73 they succeeded in sending back 60 images. Then they had 7 more failures since then. The U.S. failed in '64, but succeeded sending 21 pictures back in 1964. That seems pretty interesting. I mean, all we were doing was landing on the moon, but now we're also taking pictures of Mars?
My mom can't get a picture from her telephone to Walgreens for printing, but we can send pictures from Mars to the Earth.
54 years ago,
Sorry, Mother.
we were able to do that.
I love her so
She can't do
much.
that, yeah. In the U.S. in 2013, succeeded with the Phoenix Mars lander and sent back 25 gigs of data about the planet. India and the ESA, the European Space Agency, have succeeded at doing this sort of stuff as well.
I have a question about the ESA. Do you know anything about that when you looked at it? So basically, these are like France doesn't have its own space
That's my understanding.
community
is
like we have NASA.
Yeah.
So they all kind of band together like Britain and France.
Austria, Belgium, Czech, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany,
Oh,
Greece,
wow.
Hungary, Ireland,
So you do
Italy,
know a lot about it.
Luxembourg,
Okay, so rather than having independent space agencies, they just all
the
went
Netherlands,
together.
Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, and the UK.
Seems like a good thing to do.
It seems smart, right?
Really smart.
Because we're here pouring all this NASA money in, and they're like, oh yeah, all of us will just chip in $1
Yeah.
here or there.
Get a little
An
bit more than $1.
espresso, yeah. All right, before I get into SpaceX, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. Let's see. SpaceX plan going to Mars. So I want to put this out there. NASA, well thought out plan, sounds complicated, going to be spending decades. Elon's kind of like, I think I can get us there tomorrow. I mean, the way they explain it, and their website's awesome as well. If you go
Yeah,
and check
it's
out
pretty good.
SpaceX.com, they have great videos. Their marketers are amazing. We should be aiming for that, I do
We
believe.
should be.
They do great. Their videos are awesome. The way
Great
they explain stuff
infographics.
sounds so simple. But honestly, the way it sounds compared to NASA and how complex this is, it's like 2 missions, done.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts. So let's see here. They're looking to send their first cargo mission that will be sending cargo, confirming water resources, and identifying hazards, as well as placing initial power supplies, mining, and life support infrastructure in 2022. So in 4 years. Like, NASA's still like poking around in the space station. Elon's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to have like all the things you need to function a city set up in 22.
I heard some statistic that he wants to put 1 million people on Mars in the next 100 years.
I could see that. I could see that happening.
That's crazy.
It is. It's bananas, as
million.
you would say.
Yeah, that's bananas.
The second mission in 2024, remember that's
right around
6
the-
years
right around the
away.
corner.
Yeah, will include cargo, crew,
Crew. Okay.
and will build a propellant depot and prep for future crews. Meaning these suckers are going to be hanging out down there. The ships from these missions are going to be repurposed, kind
Yeah,
of like they
they're
like to do.
reusable, yeah.
Yeah, and be the first Mars bases. So this is where they're going to start to build like little civilizations, and this is where they're going to build cities and eventually self-sustaining civilizations from.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
That's crazy.
So NASA, 800-year plan. Elon, he could probably just walk there tomorrow.
Although I did read something about NASA's plan that seemed really interesting.
Okay.
And it actually was a part of Elon's plan that I think leveraged NASA. So there's something that they're planning on building, and this was just announced not too long ago. It's called the Deep Space Gateway Space Station.
Wow.
It's actually going to be a space station that is in lunar orbit around the moon, and it's going to be like a jumping off point. So when you
I think that's where they're going to grab the asteroid. They're going to build it on there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And the idea is, rather than launching from Earth, which takes tons and tons of fuel because the escape velocity and all that stuff you have to do to leave the Earth. If you just get to this deep space gateway, launching from that isn't going to take nearly as much effort because obviously you're in space. But yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that would be cool.
So you're saying in 7 years, people might be living
6
on
years.
Mars? 6 years.
I guess 6 years is probably the takeoff time, and then
It takes a while to get there.
Yeah,
I
a
got
couple
some
years,
stuff
so
on how
8
long it
years
takes to get there.
probably we'll be living there.
Okay.
So before we get into some more SpaceX stuff, I have a few more things I want to cover.
Okay.
Let's take a break for this week's Luke's Terrible Engineering.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is terrible engineering or
You're really
not.
dropping on this title because the last one was good engineering too, I think.
I'm sorry. No, this isn't good, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have cable, so I get like 4 channels. So this weekend I'm flicking, and the North American Auto Show was actually on TV, which is
Okay,
weird.
on your one of your
And-
4 options.
Yeah, and one of the things I saw, and I haven't seen this in any car that I've ever driven, is a heads-up display on the windshield
Oh yeah.
rather than your traditional gauge cluster like right above the steering wheel. And I don't know about you, but like whenever I'm driving, I don't look at my gauges that often. You just kind of glance at them, make sure your speed's okay, and that's about it. Like when you're going into a school zone, you're on the highway or whatever, you're just kind of double checking your speed. But if you have heads-up display literally in your line of sight, showing information about speed and anything else that you would put in that cluster, I feel like that's a major distraction.
So the
Like major distraction.
I believe it was the Mercedes SL 550 that I was driving around had that.
It did?
And yeah.
What did you think of it?
It wasn't that distracting. Like, it would catch my eye once in a while,
Really?
but once I knew it was there, it
Okay.
really wasn't an issue.
So
I didn't
maybe-
even look at it much for the speed.
So you did it the same way you treated the exact same way you treated your typical traditional gauges. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe
I think
I'm
it's
wrong
kind of
on
neat,
that.
but I could see where it could be distracting, maybe,
Yeah.
to get used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It,
yeah.
it was interesting.
I bet
but-
no vehicle I ever drive will have that, or at least not for 20 years.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a bad engineering or just maybe it's a
Maybe
getting
we should
used
change
to.
this to interesting engineering or something like that.
No, not interesting engineering.
No, okay. All right, let's move back on
Yes.
to our friends at SpaceX. How about that?
Yes.
So to send everything into space, we know that they have all these rockets going on. They have what they have named, this isn't the official name yet, the BFR. And get your mind out of the gutter, it stands for the Big Falcon rocket.
Okay.
Because they have
They got
all the
cool
Falcons. They
names.
got
They
the
got
Falcon
great
and the
names.
Falcon Heavy and things like that. So I thought it was something else when I heard it, and I was like, "They're so awesome!" But
Well, knowing
the Big
Elon,
Falcon,
that's how
yes.
he'd do it.
So this thing's nutso, okay? It has a greater payload than the Saturn V. It's the least expensive rocket, since everything that's going into the design has basically been funneled from the Falcon 9 and the Heavy and been repurposed for the BFR, and it's all reusable. It's 106 meters long. The thrusters, the booster thrust have power of 52,700 kilonewtons. It holds 1,200 tons of liquid oxygen. The ship length itself is 48 meters, and that's important because it's housing 40 cabins, a big common area, central storage, a galley, and solar storm shelters.
Okay.
So not only for the travel, but then when they
When you get
land
there.
on Mars, we have a nice place to live, right?
Gotcha.
Side note, have you heard Elon give a presentation before?
Yeah.
I was listening to him present about the BFR.
Okay.
He is not good.
He's a terrible,
He is-
terrible presenter.
He is, I don't know if it's just that he's so smart and he doesn't care about presenting or what, but he is unpolished. There's a lot of
People
ums and ahs.
Love it.
Yeah, he speaks like a
Absolutely.
person, man.
Like, he is the polar opposite of Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is probably one of the most polished presenters you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And Elon comes out with his leather jacket on and his jeans and he does the ums and the uhs.
He does.
And you
It
can
is
tell,
his jacket and jeans,
Yeah,
too.
you could tell he didn't rehearse it. You could tell he's not using notes or a teleprompter.
Yeah.
And people go bananas for it.
Yeah. One more thing about the BFR.
Yeah.
They're planning to use it for Earth-to-Earth transportation
I
as
saw
well.
that. You could go from New York
Stupid.
to
I'm gonna
Shanghai.
play a game with you.
I know New York to Shanghai was 39 minutes. I watched the video.
Los Angeles to New York,
27,
25. Bangkok to Dubai,
15,
27. London to New York,
12,
29. Los Angeles to London,
29.
32. Like, how you're going across the entire United States in 3 extra minutes?
He said,
Unreal.
yeah, the
Like
video,
most flights under 30 minutes.
the video I saw said you could be anywhere in the world in under 30 minutes.
It's crazy.
That's bananas.
It is absolutely
But
awesome.
You'd have a hard time getting me on that because I've seen the videos of those things landing vertically and they go, they blow up into huge flames.
I saw during his great presentation that right now they have legs on them.
Yeah.
He's planning to get rid of those soon and just be able to have one rocket that lands it straight down.
Yeah, I'm
Which-
not getting
Yeah,
on
and
that,
it's going to have to
sorry.
be very successful
So
for a long
can
time.
we talk about what it takes to get there?
Let's talk about that,
Okay.
and then let's talk about what it takes to make it inhabitable.
Okay,
How do we
so-
get there, Luke?
So, from what I can tell, it takes roughly about 300 days to get there. So it's almost a year
Long
to get
time.
there. And what it is, if you think about it, we're moving, Mars is moving, so you got to aim to where Mars is going to be with your trajectory. So
I was never good at
like,
that
if-
physics. And
if nothing
help.
was moving, it would be shorter. But obviously, it's moving, so it takes about 300 days, and it is so expensive to keep a crew, occupied and alive, and all the resources and energy and food and everything that happens with a crew. So what they've come up with is this thing called torpor. Torpo.
Torpo.
I can't pronounce it. Basically, this is everything you've seen in science fiction. You're basically in this unit that lowers your body temperature roughly 10 degrees and you go into
One more time?
It lowers your body temperature 10 degrees, which reduces your metabolic rate by 50 to 75%. And what they do is they give you some kind of drugs that prevent the shivering, and you basically go into an induced coma, and you basically don't need food, you don't use the bathroom, you don't need to move, your breathing is reduced, and that's the plan for sending people to Mars. And what they would do is they would rotate it, so you would be up for a couple of weeks monitoring the crew, and then you'd go to sleep and wake me up, and I'd monitor the crew. But that's the whole idea, is to make this feasible, you have to sleep on the way. You have to put these people in this, and this is legit. This is from NASA's website. This is how they're going to do this, and it's crazy, but it's everything. And they do this today. There was a NASCAR or an IndyCar driver that got in a really bad car accident, and he was injured. And what they do is they put him in a medically induced coma, basically, and they reduce his body temperature, reduces the metabolic rate, so that they could figure out how to work on him in the meantime.
Wow.
So we're doing this now. We've never done it more than like a week or two. So like for
so they're going to have longer
now,
stretches.
Now they're going to try to stretch this to like 3-4 months. You're in this state, and then you would rotate in and
Make
out.
the trip a lot better.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Wow, that's nuts. I had no idea about that.
If you and I are on this trip, I don't know if I would trust you.
Oh, no.
Like, if you're the one awake, keep
Definitely
an eye on
not.
me. I feel like I'd wake up and I'd have Sharpie drawn all over me.
You absolutely would.
You'd be dipping
I'd
my
be
hand in
live
water.
streaming it to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
You'd like shave one of my eyebrows. I feel like you're that guy that
I
would
am.
do that.
Just imagine the mindset you have to be like, yep, I'm going to
Willing
travel
to
to
do
Mars,
that.
knock me out for months at a time,
It's
and
crazy.
go. Wow. All right, ways to make Mars inhabitable. Do you want to hear some of these?
Basically, just watch the movie Total Recall.
Total Recall. I haven't seen that in forever.
I just
think
watched
I was
it
like
I watched
two
it
when
like
I
2
watched
weeks
it.
ago, and it was so timely because there's so much good stuff in that movie.
All right. So interesting. The Earth's molten iron core produces the strongest magnetic field in our solar system.
Okay.
And that's what protects us from what you mentioned, the solar winds and the cosmic radiation. And so NASA has proposed an artificially induced magnetic field on Mars, and that could allow the atmosphere to reform. So they kind of make that shield around Mars
Terraforming.
as well.
Gotcha.
Injecting synthetic greenhouse gases is an option. So you put those in the atmosphere, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So fluorines would work the best because they're like 10,000 times more effective than like CO2.
Okay.
And that could take like 100,000 years. So fluorines might be a more timely option as well. There's also the option to melt the polar caps of Mars by sprinkling some stuff around it.
Throw some rocks
That
on it,
would
right?
absorb the sunlight, or by placing large mirrors in orbit around the planet that reflect more sunlight onto
Okay,
it, melting
so
the
there's
polar
some
caps.
legitimate fact in the movie Total Recall, because in Total Recall what they did was they turned on the generators and it melted the ice below the surface and it terraformed Mars.
They say how sci-fi has a lot of things that kind of make sense in it.
I wanted to name our cat Quato because of the little guy that was
That
attached to the guy's
didn't
body.
happen, huh? I've
No.
heard about this cat.
I wouldn't. Yeah,
It had
I
an
wanted to name him
interesting life.
Quato.
Yeah. Elon once suggested, I thought this was kind of well known, that we nuke the polar ice caps to unlock the liquid
yeah.
water and release clouds of CO2 to thicken the atmosphere and warm the planet, which I thought was neat.
Okay.
And then another option would be to smash a moon into the poles and see what would happen. Take a whole moon, smash it into the poles, see what would happen.
Okay.
And then an Indian company named Space Hardware Optimization Technology proposes that we give up on the whole planet being livable and make giant domes to live in instead of, terraforming the whole planet.
Total Recall.
Absolutely. So that's how we're going to make it inhabitable. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I really like this one, but I really can honestly say if you don't listen to our whole entire episode, well, if you're listening now, then obviously you did.
have, yes.
You could just literally watch the movie Total Recall. I can't say enough about Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance in that movie. It was amazing.
Award-winning.
There was some legitimate science
Or
in that
deserving.
movie. I mean, other than the little guy connected to the guy's stomach.
You didn't like that?
Came out. I had nightmares about
Oh,
Quato.
I thought he was neat.
But yeah, I enjoyed this one. This was good.
Me too. I think it was really interesting. A lot of science, and I think it's like the biggest thing going on right now.
So what I'd like our listeners to do, and we don't ask them to do too much.
We don't.
I would love it if they would say yes or no, they would take a trip to Mars. Knowing all the stuff we just said, how long it takes, they might have to get knocked out for a couple months, radiation, temperature. Would you go to Mars given the opportunity? James, I'm going to give you the first one to say yes or no.
I'm guessing I'm too old, but no, I would not.
I don't think I would go.
I'll just die here. It's fine.
Yeah, I consider myself like an outdoorsy kind of guy.
You're still not up for it?
I just that's
You know, my idea of camping is like a hotel room, so
Yeah.
I don't think I'm up for this.
Yeah, I'd love to see like how many say yes, how many. You can do polls now on Facebook.
We're not
a
gonna
lot
do
of
that.
people are doing that. We should try that.
Okay, I'll let you set that up.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think until next time,
Yeah.
we should call it a day.
See ya.